Following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't take long, and you'll be glad you did when disaster strikes. Here's a list of items to include: a first aid kit, battery-powered or hand crank radio, flashlight, extra batteries, an emergency whistle, cell phone with charger, cash and small bills, a local map with your family meeting place identified, food and water for at least 3 days, better yet, a week, garbage bags, dust masks, and seasonal clothing and footwear. Add prescription medications or any other important items unique to your family's needs. Once you've created your kit, check food expiry dates once a year and update seasonal clothing for growing children. If you have pets, make sure you have everything your furry friends need in an easy-to-carry grab-and-go bag. To learn more about preparing an emergency kit, visit Prepared BC. When floods, fires, and other disasters threaten people's safety, an evacuation alert or evacuation order may be issued. It's important to understand what these mean. An evacuation alert means there's a risk in your area. Be prepared to leave home on short notice. Get your grab-and-go bags ready. Include several days of clothing, toiletries, and medications, your emergency plan, and copies of important documents. Include toys, games, or books if you have children, and a carrier, water, and food if you have pets. And make sure there's gas in your vehicle. An evacuation order means you must leave immediately. Failing to do so puts yourself and others at risk. Take your grab-and-go bags, wallet or purse, and cell phone with charger. Listen to emergency officials and evacuate using routes they've identified. Don't take shortcuts. Proceed quickly and calmly. An emergency social services reception center may be set up for those needing additional support. Local officials will let you know when it's safe to return home. Severe weather can happen in any season. Disruptions, such as loss of power, can be serious, so you need to prepare now to be on your own for at least 3 days. Develop a household plan, put together an emergency kit, and connect with your neighbors. Here are some additional tips to make sure you are well prepared. Have a battery-operated radio to listen to your local news station for warnings, advice, and instructions. Stow flashlights and extra batteries around your house in case of power failure. Fireplaces, wood stoves, barbecues, and camp stoves can be used for emergency cooking. Just remember never to use barbecues or camp stoves indoors where they pose a fire and carbon monoxide hazard. Consider a home generator for extended outages, but never operate it indoors. Regularly inspect your chimney to make sure it is safe to use if needed. And make sure to properly winterize your home. Visit Prepared BC to learn more. To find out if your area is at risk, contact your local government and ask if flood hazard mapping is available. Connect with neighbors to learn about past flooding in the area and consider hiring an engineer to conduct a ground assessment. If your area is at risk, it's important to prepare your family, develop your household plan, and build an emergency kit right away. Floods can happen quickly and won't wait for you to get ready. When a flood does strike, here are some key steps you need to take. Tune to local radio and TV channels, as well as trusted social media feeds to get important information on sandbagging stations, potential evacuation procedures, and reception centers. If you have time, move electrical appliances to upper floors that are less likely to be flooded, and make sure to anchor all fuel supplies, such as oil and gas tanks. If you're directed to evacuate, leave immediately and only return home when authorities say it's safe to do so. When returning, be careful driving through areas where floodwaters have receded. Debris can often be on the road, and roadways and walkways may have even been eroded. Never attempt to drive through areas that are still flooded. Just 2 feet of moving water can carry away most vehicles, including SUVs and pickup trucks. Also, be very careful of standing water, which may be electrically charged from downed power lines. If you return home and find flood damage, begin the work of restoring your property to prevent further losses from dirty water and mold. Be sure to photograph any damage to your property and speak to your insurance broker right away. With more BC homes being built on steep slopes and mountainsides, landslide hazards are a growing concern. While many landslides are relatively minor, a worst-case scenario can bring millions of cubic meters of debris down a slope. an amount equal to tens of thousands of dump truck loads. They can also travel up to 100 kilometers an hour. Depending on the severity of a landslide, you and your family may be on your own for several days as you await first responders. So knowing the risk, having an emergency plan, and building an emergency kit are critical. To determine if your property is at risk of landslide, contact your local government to see if hazard mapping is available. Review any site surveys or engineering reports. Connect with neighbors to learn about past landslides in the area, and consider hiring an engineer to conduct a ground assessment. Also, make sure that any dikes or flood control structures protecting your property have been well maintained. If your property is at risk, your family needs to learn the key warning signs that often precede a landslide: abnormally dirty water, accumulation of large logs or debris, sudden changes in stream flow or volume, changes in water from clear to dirty, and rapid accumulation of sediment along flat creek sections. Falling rocks, boulders, or sliding soil may indicate a larger landslide. Leave the area immediately if you observe a faint rumbling sound that increases in volume, or unusual sounds such as trees cracking or boulders knocking together. Once you've reached a safe location, call 911 or local emergency number to report the situation. If you have evacuated, only return home when officials say that it is safe to do so. British Columbia is situated along the Pacific Ring of Fire, which means areas of our coast are at risk of a damaging tsunami. Earthquakes are often precursors to tsunamis. If you are in a tsunami risk area and an earthquake strikes, you should first drop cover and hold on. When the shaking stops, move to higher ground or inland immediately. Remember that tsunamis are a series of waves, not just one, and the time between crests can range from minutes to hours. Never go to the beach to watch a tsunami. The waves can move faster than you can run. BC will receive early warning of a potential distant tsunami from the U.S. National Tsunami Warning Center. If a tsunami is imminent, emergency warnings and information will be broadcast via radio, telephone, text message, door-to-door contact, social media, weather radios, and outdoor sirens. Always follow instructions from local emergency officials. Do not return home until they say it is safe to do so. To learn more about tsunamis, visit Prepared BC. British Columbia's forests and wildlands cover nearly 1 million square kilometers. An average of 2,000 wildfires happen every year. Thanks to the efforts of the BC Wildfire Service, the majority of these fires are contained within 24 hours. And while most wildfires occur away from cities and towns, some can threaten homes, businesses, and infrastructure. You can reduce the risk of wildfire damage on private property by using FireSmart principles. You can also prepare in advance to help keep your family safe. Develop a household plan, build an emergency kit, and connect with your neighbors. It's also important to be aware of the different stages of evacuation. An evacuation order means you must leave immediately. An evacuation alert means you must be prepared to evacuate on short notice. When an evacuation is rescinded, it means you can return home, but stay tuned for any new alerts and orders. Nearly half of all wildfires are caused by human carelessness. To report a wildfire or irresponsible behavior, call 1-800-663-5555 or star 5555 from a cell phone. Visit Prepared BC and bcwildfire.ca. Extended power outages can occur as a result of severe weather, natural disasters, or other emergencies. In the event of an extended power outage, you may be without light, heat, or water for several days, even weeks. Get prepared by developing a household plan, building an emergency kit with enough supplies for at least 3 days, and connecting with your neighbors. Here are some additional tips. Stow flashlights and extra batteries around your house to use when the lights go out. Other safe lighting options include glow sticks, crank flashlights, headlamps, and battery-powered lanterns. Fireplaces, wood stoves, barbecues, and camp stoves can be used for emergency cooking. Just remember, never use barbecues or camp stoves indoors where they pose a fire and carbon monoxide hazard. A home generator can also be helpful for extended outages. Just be sure to operate it outside. In BC, floods can happen at any time of year, but are most likely to occur during heavy rains and snowmelt between April and July. When severe, the potential for damage to property and infrastructure is high. There are also risks to life and safety. Building a sandbag dike is a good way to protect your home and property from rising floodwaters. Here's how to do it. First, collect burlap or plastic bags, shovels, and a large amount of sand. Make sure to build your sandbag dike on high ground as close to your home as possible. This way, you will need fewer bags and your dike will be less exposed to floodwaters. It's also recommended you build higher around any low spots for maximum protection. When constructing your dike, it is recommended that it be 3 times as wide as it is high in order to be effective. Each successive layer should have 1 fewer sandbag so that your completed dike has a triangular cross-section. To start your foundation, dig a trench that is 1 bag deep and 2 bags wide. Then, fill sandbags halfway and place them overlapping each other. There's no need to tie them shut, just make sure the open ends of the bags are facing upstream or uphill so they aren't exposed to floodwaters. This will ensure sand is not washed away. Alternate the direction of your layers, lengthwise, then crosswise for greater strength. As you set the bags, walk on them to tamp them into place, but be careful not to puncture them. To learn more about protecting your home and family from floods, visit